this desire for attention is so strong in me that all of my interactions around it, I just want attention, attention, attention. Like that's my main goal in interacting with people. It just really came to me really obvious as I was sitting with it last night. But now that I'm in front of people, I feel so shy, and that dynamic, like I almost feel like just this almost a repulsion around it or something. Even though I crave it, I just am fascinated by those two
Yeah,
things.
I think that's really common because that's where we were wounded, was with people. And yet that's the place where we need and must get attention growing up to develop our brains and not die. Like our hearts and our breath and everything is actually it's required to get attention in order to survive. Like, right? Those studies that they did with babies not getting attention but getting food, they died. Like, we literally will die. So we're set up like that. But then when there's a lot of wounding, it's like, what the hell? I need this, and yet I've got to do this to live, but it's also the very thing that's taking pieces of my life away, making me shut down, turn away, get all twisted up. So it's like we're seeing the past. It's like we're having flashbacks onto the present when we're in these spaces, because these spaces are relatively benign and not having to do with our survival. Like there's nobody that's, when you're poked by your parent or your environment as a young one, it's like your survival is actually at risk, because if those people go away or don't give you as much attention, less of your biology gets developed. I mean, how crazy. Of course we get deeply wired like that.
Mm.
So, and as an adult, we don't need people. We won't die. Like, we've already survived to this point. We don't need people in the same way. It's like we have presence. We have our own presence. We have presence. Like, that's dyad spaces are great, and getting attention and having friends and being reflected, yes. But the level of activation that we feel in the spaces is like how we felt when we were children, and we don't need people like that anymore. Like, it's not accurate. It's like and it's like not accurate. Like, if that person rejects you, there's 9 billion people to go not reject you, and everybody will be loved by at least a handful of people, even if they're, people like murderers, so we're lovable. Like, there's a following for everyone, as we've seen in history. So to just know that, help your system, to remind your system it's not an emergency, just to like let yourself actually pull the attachment cords out of the space, because a lot of times we're still leaning with like a hungry baby mouth, like, I can't survive over here without you, I can't survive over here without you. And it's like, oh, that's the pattern that's happening. Like, that's not actually true. I've got the ground underneath me, I've got oxygen coming at 100% all the time, and I can take as much as I want of it. My heart beats, and I know how to go find food on my own. Like, I can go get some food whenever I want. I'm not dependent on this circumstance, or this boyfriend, or this, job. Or it's like a lot of times people get hooked in jobs or hooked in lives they hate because they're still operating as infants, as little parts, hijacking their life.
It's fascinating as you're talking. You're really talking about autonomy in the midst of talking about finding out how to handle attention.
Yes.
I'm fascinated by that right now.
Yeah. Autonomy is when being is louder than our attachment system.
Mm.
It's like being becomes louder and louder to where we're attached to being, so to speak.
Mm.
Like it parents those spaces into more being. It digests them, and it leaves a ability to rest in a deeper way, to be in a deeper way, to be more ourselves. Like when people have had so many boundary violations that they don't have like a membrane, and they just take, like someone says, I don't know if I like you, and it's just like devastating, like someone just like cut their head off and just left him to bleed out. Like, whoa. It's like there's no membrane, there's being is the main show. As we keep returning our attention to just a sense of being, leaving ourselves alone, not knowing, like seeing ourselves, it's like we're building our membrane back of like a healthy toroidal field around our bodies, a magnetic field. We're returning the system to a natural state of like, oh, that bounces off and that's that person. Can we let people's agitation or wobbliness be theirs? That's why dyads are really good for both parties. Like the witnessing party gets to know, I can just be here and let people just like flail all over the place. Oh my gosh. Like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Like off the hook. I'm off the hook. Like, wow. I can just, that's about them. That's not them reacting to me. It's like all these parts of our brain that are wired can get unwired. Yeah, autonomy. Being attached to, I like the nervous system wants a friend. Like it thinks in the root, usually the survival, or the guts. It's like that terror of annihilation, of the self dissolving. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna make it. I'm not okay. It's actually currently feels it's not okay. That's why it keeps going over to other people. It's actually the nightmare from the past. And autonomy is actually returning to that sense of, ah, and also being present. The presence grows, tenderizes, cares for, and rewires all the places that grab and reach out and need and react and take on heavy blows of other people's stuff, other people's business. And it's like, it's so strong. It's so gentle and soft, but yet so strong. It's totally capable of parenting all these places that got knocked on their butts. And that's why, relational healing, like relational healing with the therapist, relational healing in dyads is just so good. It's so key. Finding other types of, I got relational healing from ecstatic dances and 5 rhythms, because I'd be in a space where people are like moving and I would be bawling, or I'd be rolling around on the ground, thrashing about, and nobody bothered me, and nobody said, are you okay? Or put their stuff on me. It's like it's a space where nobody talks and you just get to be yourself. You get to be all those parts and you're still in relationship. It's like a mutual agreement of a space where we're not going to poke each other. We're not going to go, oh, she just shared and it really reminded me of my uncle. It's like, nope, we're leaving the share to just dissolve into space. And we're assuming that she's just being like, until she says otherwise. There's so much more on autonomy. I want to say one more thing. Autonomy also, I feel the central channel, like that space right from bregma, where the soft spot is on a baby, straight down the body and out the perineal floor. There's something that we hang out in the front part of our attachment system, and that's where like our mouth, our tongue, our face muscles, our chest, like where we hold tension. It's like, can we come a little bit further back in our bodies and explore what it's like to relate from there? Not like way back into like the absolute, and people go way back into that. It's like just into the center a little bit more. Well, there's like a little bit more space, or like a blank spot, like when a dog or a cat goes like that. It's like, huh? And then can that be with the parts that are shaky? Because that light can shine outwards into our front, into the pain that we hold sometimes in the spine or the back of the neck. It's like, can that just glow? It's like a neutral space. It's like right in front of the spine, not all the way back into it. And it's vertical, not as opposed to horizontal.
That's very fascinating. When I went into that space last night where I could feel myself wanting all the attention, there was a feeling in my belly of being right up against the front of my belly wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I was I had never felt that before, and it's really interesting to hear you talk
Yes.
about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that can be like umbilical cord, you know. I remember feeling through like the first wound by the world was like they cut my umbilical cord. It's like that thing is still absorbing nutrients and pulsing and connected to mama. And like in conventional medicine, they cut it like pretty early. They don't, it's like, it's like, I needed a little bit more time. Thank you very much. So it's just like, oh, how can presence just come into all those spaces and take care of all that little stuff? Because we can't do it. We can't go back for every little tiny. It's like, oh my gosh. The more things you learn about all the things, it's like, oh my gosh. Thank goodness we don't have to do that.
I love that.